Everyone, this is Eric coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and today we are going to be discussing the 2022 NFL season up to this point. So we are just about at the halfway point, so I'm excited to look at it. You know, some teams have passed their halfway point, but 18-week season now, still not used to it. We're heading into Week 11. Tonight is the kickoff for Week 11, so just missed it, but hey, life goes on. Had some stuff come up. I wanted to do this video last week, but hey, because of it, we do get to watch this game again, the Bills versus the Vikings. That was a great game. Didn't watch the entire game, but it was amazing. It was great to watch it. Just game of the year material right off the bat. I don't think there's really any complaints about that. So anyways, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go division by division, look at each team, discuss how the key players are doing, and of course if there's any notable injuries, all that good stuff. So we'll start with the AFC. Normally I jump around. This time I'll go in order. So we'll go AFC East. Now this division is currently being led by the Miami Dolphins. Miami is one of the more pleasant surprises in the league so far, as they sit at 7-3, currently going on their bye week. Miami, they've had an interesting season so far. So the Dolphins, of course, there's a lot of people making the argument right now that Tua should be the MVP frontrunner, and I could definitely see that. Tua's having an amazing year, and this year he was really on the bubble. Everyone's kind of looking at him and saying, if he doesn't play well, the Dolphins are going to have to get a new quarterback in 2023. You know, there's no questioning it. But Tua has been playing amazing football, which it's always fun to have a strong left-handed quarterback in the league. So watching Tua play, I mean, they did everything they could to get him help. They got Tyreek Hill this year prior to the season. They got Jalen Waddle last year in the draft. Those two receivers are really helping Tua explode this year. He's having an amazing season for the Dolphins. The defense isn't playing at the level it was last year, but you're still having a lot of big-name players step up. I mean, they just got Bradley Chubb at the trade deadline. Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, is playing. Jalen Phillips is playing great football, coming off the edge. Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins definitely are looking like a team that's going to make a run in the playoffs this year. Will they be able to make it to the Super Bowl? That's the question. The New York Jets are another pleasant surprise, sitting at 6-3. Now, the Jets have here. Of course, they beat the Bills, beat the Dolphins, so they are definitely a team to watch this year. I don't necessarily think people thought that the Jets would be this good this year, but at the same time, the Jets are a solid team. Now, they're one of the few teams that you look at them and they don't really have a great quarterback. So Zach Wilson is Zach Wilson, I guess, but I'm not looking at Zach Wilson and saying he's a great, MVP type of player. He's a good player, but he's not an MVP. He's not a leader. He's not the type of guy that the Jets were envisioning. Now, Breece Hall had an amazing start to his rookie year. After maybe a slow game or two to start off his season, Breece Hall was looking exactly like what the Jets wanted him to be, but unfortunately he did tear his ACL, so he is done for the year. They got James Robinson to help replace him. Now, the receiver room's where you're having some issues for the Jets, and obviously if your quarterback's not producing, your wide receivers aren't going to be the best. Elijah Moore is not happy right now. He did request a trade. They held on to him. We'll have to see what happens this season, but for now, he is what he is. Their offensive line's been dealing with a lot of injuries, so they've been kind of having to run the ball a bit more. They're a team that right now I don't think they're at the same level as the other two leaders in this division. Defensively, their defense is playing pretty good football right now. So there's no real big standouts outside of maybe CJ Mosley. But hey, sometimes the quiet guys are the ones that you have to fear the most. Buffalo Bills sit in third in the division, also with a 6-3 record. Now they are 0-2 in the AFC East. The Jets are 2-1. Therefore, the Jets do have the tiebreaker right now, especially since the Jets did beat the Bills the one time they met. So that's why. But the Bills are one of the best teams. I mean, they're such a strong team this year. Josh Allen, potential MVP candidate, him and Tua are both MVP candidates. Of course, Josh Allen is dealing with a slight tear in his elbow, which is never good. But at this point, he's going to play through it. Looks good for him. The running game, unfortunately for them, they haven't really found a good running back. James Cook was ideally going to be the answer. He hasn't been producing like they wanted, so they did go out and acquire Naheem Hines at the deadline. Still not playing the best football, but Hines, I'm going to give him a pass because he's only had, maybe 1 or 2 practices or games with the team, practices and all that stuff. Defensively, or receiver-wise, sorry, I completely missed Stephon Diggs doing everything possible. Had an amazing catch in the game against the Vikings last week. He did get overshadowed, but still, it is worth noting. So, he's looking great. The other guys, they're doing what they got to do. McKenzie's doing okay. Gabriel Davis isn't producing at the level we saw in the playoffs last year, but he's doing pretty good. Defensively, the Bills' defense is very strong, but they did get exposed against the Vikings, so we have to see if other teams can kind of step forward, take that advantage. New England Patriots sitting last in the AFC East, but they are a very respectable 5-4. The Patriots are a tough one to look at and kind of judge, though, because you compare their quarterbacks. I mean, you started with Mac Jones. Mac gets hurt. Bailey, I forget if it's Zapp or Zappy. I think it's Zappy, comes in, and he absolutely cruises to a couple games, but then he gets cold. So there's a little bit of a quarterback question mark with the Patriots. You know, this is something they didn't have for 20-plus years with Brady, seemingly 20-plus years, but 20 years with Tom Brady. So that is worth noting. But, I mean, he's a good... Right now it's Mac Jones' team. I mean, he was a first-round pick last year for a reason. So he's good. Running-wise, I mean, there's 50 different running backs on the Patriots every year, it seems like. Right now, Stevenson's the one in favor. So Damian Harris on the outside looking in right now. But Jacoby Myers is the number one receiver. Doesn't really get a lot of stats. You look at the tight ends, of course. Hunter Henry's the big one, but he's not nearly at the level of someone like when you had prime Gronk, for example. Defensively, the Patriots are playing very good, and the big standout is, of course, Matthew Judon right now. He is absolutely dominating. I don't know if he's still up there for the league lead in sacks. He might be leading the league, but even if he isn't, he's been amazing so far this year. So a lot of people were kind of questioning when the Patriots gave him a big deal last offseason. He's producing this year. That's what you wanted. Now we go to the AFC North. Baltimore currently leads this division with a 6-3 record. Baltimore is an interesting team. You look at their team, you look at them, and you kind of thought, okay, it's going to be a run-heavy team, and that's exactly what's happened. Lamar Jackson, potential MVP candidate. The real question for Lamar is, when will he get a contract extension from the Ravens, or will they dare to let him test free agency? I don't think he'll test free agency. It's going to be fun. Obviously, Lamar's not your pro. Seemingly every single running back in the league on the team is hurt, so they keep rotating through running backs. They have Mike Davis now, but he's a shell of what he was a couple years back. So, I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. Gus Edwards kind of came back, and now he's dealing with another injury, so who knows. Receiving-wise, of course, you did trade away Marquise Hollywood-Brown this offseason, so Mark Andrews, number one receiver on the team despite being a tight end. He is coming back from injury soon. Hopefully he'll be back this week. Defensively, the Ravens are a good team, but there's still a lot left. A lot to prove for their defense. So, Cincinnati Bengals, the defending AFC champions, sit at 5-4 in the division. They're actually 0-3 against their AFC North, other teams in the AFC North, which is, of course, noteworthy. But regardless, the Bengals are an interesting team. Right now, unfortunately, star receiver Jamar Chase is out, but T. Higgins has stepped up. And I always forget the third guy's name, but he is a good receiver. I'm going to look him up while I'm talking about him. Joe Mixon has been playing out of his mind football this year. He is looking great. I mean, he just had a 4 or 5 touchdown performance before the bye week. So that's exactly what you were hoping for. Tyler Boyd is the other receiver who's been doing very well this year. I always forget his name. But Joe Mixon's an elite running back right now. He's really stepping up. Quarterback-wise, Joe Burrow has taken a slight step back. But again, when you have your star receiver, Jamar Chase, is hurt, you're going to take a step back. And their offensive line, they tried to patchwork the offensive line together this offseason because they clearly had issues last year. Didn't necessarily work how they were hoping. Burrow is still running around a lot. So, defensively, the Bengals are what they are. They're a mediocre defense. Mediocre might be a little harsh. They're a little, maybe slightly above average defense, but there's still a lot to prove. I don't think they're going to be able to defend their AFC crown this year. Cleveland Browns sit at 3-6. They are an interesting team this year. Obviously, there's all the drama surrounding Deshaun Watson. He will be coming back shortly. He has started practicing with the team. I believe it was yesterday. So that is noteworthy. It's going to be interesting. Jacoby Brissett has done a great job working the offense, but I mean, he's a good backup quarterback. He's not a starter for a reason. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I mean, you look at this team, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, both two very strong running backs. Chubb clearly the number one. Hunt was actually rumored to be a trade candidate this trade deadline. Nothing came of it. So we'll have to see what happens with him. He's on an expiring deal. So that is noteworthy. But the Browns, looking good. Receiver-wise, Donovan Peoples-Jones is really stepping up this year, which is good. This is exactly what the Browns wanted. As a 6th-round pick, this is probably more than what they could have wanted from him. So they've got to be happy. David Njoku, tight end, is going to be coming back soon. So the Browns offense, give it a couple weeks. Once Deshaun Watson's playing, this team could be pretty unstoppable, but not here to praise Deshaun Watson for obvious reasons. Pittsburgh Steelers sit at 3-6. They lose the tiebreaker to the Browns due to a worse division record, 2-1 versus 1-1. So Pittsburgh, I mean, the Steelers have some issues this year, and the obvious one is their quarterback situation. They started with Mitch Trubisky, the former Nickelodeon's most valuable player. Had to mention that. But Kenny Pickett ends up taking the reins shortly after, and Pickett was always going to be a little rough to start his rookie campaign. He was always going to have a rough start. I mean, we all know he has smaller hands, so that's why he fell in the draft. He was the only first-round quarterback taken, which is unheard of, but that's what happened this year with him. So you're seeing why. Running-wise, the offensive line has been atrocious this year. Thus, Najee Harris has been struggling. He did have an injury that he had suffered in the preseason, so people are kind of pumping the brakes on him in fantasy. I'm happy I kind of heeded that and said, okay, I'm going to play it careful with him. So, Najee Harris, I mean, he did have a breakout game their last game, but still there's a lot of question marks with him this year, and it's not necessarily him, it's the offensive line's fault for not really being able to block for him. Receiving-wise, I mean, there's a reason they traded away Chase Claypool, so I mean, they're not necessarily in the best position to succeed this year, and the receiving room is mediocre, to say it nicely. So it's not really helping Kenny Pickett, which is what it is. Defensively, TJ Watt has been hurt. He did come back, which is good, but there's still obviously, when you miss a player like TJ Watt, it's going to hurt your team. You're going to struggle, because TJ Watt is such a big name, big presence on the defense. Their defense has its moments. I mean, I'm excited to see William Jackson play for them, because I don't think he has not played for them yet since being acquired at the deadline. He's exciting to me. I think in Pittsburgh's defense, he has a real chance to step up and be maybe a second string, maybe the QB or the cornerback too. Micah Fitzpatrick with him could be a deadly duo. Next, we go to the AFC South, where the Tennessee Titans lead the division with a 6-3 record. Tennessee, of course, did lose a dogfight to Kansas City this past week, or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember when it was. It was a great game, though, regardless. Now, the Titans have their issues 2 weeks ago. The Titans' big issue is, right now, if Ryan Tannehill isn't healthy, which he did come back, but if he gets hurt, we saw what Malik Willis can do. And right now, he's a run QB. He's Lamar Jackson, except with a far weaker arm. But we knew this was going to happen. We knew he was a very raw player. Still, let's focus on Ryan Tannehill. We know what he is. He's a inconsistent quarterback, streaky quarterback. So right now, the Titans might have to find themselves shopping for a quarterback in the offseason, which isn't exactly great for them. But I think Tannehill has to go. I like him, but I think he's done. His time is done with the Titans. He's better served as a backup. As for Malik Willis, he's Malik Willis. I think he's still so raw that you probably want to have him as a backup for another year at minimum. Derrick Henry is doing Derrick Henry things, not at the level that we have been accustomed to the past couple years, but he's still playing great football, so that is noteworthy. I mean, they don't necessarily have elite receivers in Tennessee. They're definitely missing A.J. Brown. Treylon Burks, who they got with the draft pick that they traded A.J. Brown for, has been okay, but he is just coming off the IR. I think he played just last week. So, I mean, you're definitely missing him. Defensively, they're a bend but don't break defense. They usually dominate the first couple quarters of the game, the first 2 or 3 quarters, but then they kind of start to fall apart. We saw it with Kansas City. Kansas City was tearing them apart bit by bit, but that's Patrick Mahomes. They're a better defense than people give them credit for, and I probably just undersold them a little bit. Indianapolis Colts sit at 4-5-1. Now, of course, let's get the main thing out of the way here, the coaching controversy. So they did fire Frank Reich after starting off the season 3-5-1, and then they went out and hired Jeff Saturday. Now, if you're my age or older, and I'm in my mid-20s, you very well remember Jeff Saturday as probably the best center so far in the 21st century. He was an absolute animal to watch play football. I loved watching him play, and we all remember that Pro Bowl moment where he was on, I believe he was on the Broncos at that point, or the Packers, sorry, and he took a snap for the AFC to snap it to Peyton Manning because he was going to be retiring after the year, and it was all like, oh, Pro Bowl's a joke because of that. But he had no coaching experience at the NFL or team. He gets hired and brought in as an interim head coach. Guess what? He won his first game. He's currently undefeated, so it's going to be interesting. I understand the controversy, but we'll have to see what happens. I don't know if Saturday is going to be the type of guy that gets the coaching job for real after the season's over, but hey, maybe he will. It's going to come down to if the players respect him or not. Anyways, talking about the Colts now themselves. Quarterback-wise, I have no idea what's going on with that. They traded for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has done basically nothing for them. He struggled immensely. He gets hurt. So then they say, all right, we're going to bring up Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger has 2 starts for the team. He loses both of them. He doesn't play that well. But again, he's a second-year, 6th-round pick. He's not expected to break out, but still, it's noteworthy. Matt Ryan started last game. Didn't have the best game, but also wasn't bad. So he is an intriguing player to watch. Regardless, Colts, obviously, Jonathan Taylor has been dealing with injuries this year, so maybe he'll come back. Once he comes back fully healthy, maybe they'll be a better team. Other than that, trading Naheem Hines was kind of a head-scratcher to me. So, defensively, Shaquille Leonard. There we go. Shaq Leonard is done for the year. That's a huge loss for them. He is probably the best linebacker in the game. So, that is a brutal loss. Very unfortunate for the Colts. We'll have to see what happens. But this is a team that defensively has some issues. Jacksonville Jaguars sit at 3-7. Jaguars, their 3-7 record's a little iffy because you look at it and they're definitely a good team. They play close. They played a very close game against the Eagles. They played a very close game against the Giants. They lost both of them. I watched both those games from start to finish. And they're definitely impressive. I mean, it's pretty clear that Urban Meyer was the issue last season. Doug Peterson's doing a great job this year coaching the team. Trevor Lawrence, he started off the year clearly looking like a great quarterback. Now he's kind of regressed a little bit from the start of the year, but he's still light years ahead of where he was last season, which is noteworthy. Trevor Lawrence looking great. Travis Etienne has really exploded this year. He's looking great. There's a reason they were willing to trade away James Robinson. Etienne's a great pass-catching running back, so I love watching him play. He's a guy who I do have in one of my main dynasty leagues because he's just so exciting to watch play. Defensively, there's players on the defense that I like watching, like Josh Allen, but their defense isn't as pretty as it was in 2017. Houston Texans sit in last place, as expected, with a 1-7-1 record. Yes, they did tie the Colts the first week. Houston's Houston. There's really not much to say about the Texans. They did play the Eagles well, I will give them that, but it was a Thursday night game in Houston, so who really knows? But, I mean, it's not the prettiest team to watch. Davis Mills is not a NFL starting quarterback right now, so there's that. Their running backs, I mean, you just got Eno Benjamin off of waivers, but hey, Dameon Pierce is looking like a star. He was part of the trade, the haul that they got for Deshaun Watson. They picked him with a pick that they got in that trade, so that is noteworthy. Very strong pickup. I love Dameon Pierce. He's probably the best rookie running back right now, especially with Breece Hall out. There's no debate. So I just love watching him play. But other than those two, other than Dameon Pierce, the offense has been borderline unwatchable. Brandon Cooks is good, but he's been hurt. So defensively, borderline unwatchable. Next we go to the AFC West. Kansas City leads the division with a 7-2 record. Kansas City is Kansas City. They are one of the best teams in the NFL for a reason, and I love watching them play. The Chiefs do what the Chiefs do. Patrick Mahomes has taken a big step forward this year, which is exactly what you wanted if you are a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So it's beautiful if you're a Chiefs fan. If you're not a Chiefs fan, you're a little afraid. Running-wise, Clyde Edwards-Helaire clearly fallen out of favor with the team, so that is concerning. But at the same time, they do have rookie running back Pacheco. He has been stepping up right now. They've been kind of using him. He has no upside as a pass catcher, so he's kind of one of the last, one first, second down, north-south backs, but he's fun to watch. Receiving-wise, they did miss Tyreek Hill to start the year, but now Juju Smith-Schuster, who they got in free agency, is really starting to step up. Unfortunately, he's in concussion protocol at this moment. Hopefully he comes back soon because he's a very dynamic player to watch play. Other than him, Miko Hardman has been stepping up this year. Similar player, similar play style. Unfortunately, he is also hurt. So it's kind of like Kansas City's got to have a tough week or two if both those guys are out. Los Angeles Chargers sit in second in the division. They are at 5-4. The Chargers are a frustrating team to watch because on paper they should be 7-2. They should be right up there with Kansas City, one of the best teams in the division, but they're barely above 500. They're losing games in embarrassing fashion. They got embarrassed by the Jaguars, which not the end of the world per se, but still it is noteworthy. You lost to the 49ers last week. You lost to the Seahawks, which is not a pretty win, not a pretty game to lose. Like, you get a pass for losing to teams like the Rams, especially week one. Or you didn't lose to the Rams, sorry. I was looking at the preseason. I'm like, wait a second. Now, you lost to Kansas City. That's acceptable. And then you get blown out by the Jaguars. I know Justin Herbert has been dealing with an injury this year, so it would explain the slight letdown that he's been producing this season, but he's still a great quarterback, one of the best young quarterbacks in the league. Is he at Josh Allen's level? Not really. That would be a flag in real life. But he's good. He's very good. One of the better quarterbacks in the league. Love watching him play. Obviously, this year, Austin Eckler has taken a step forward, specifically as a pass catcher. This team has issues with running the ball. It's showing, so they're just doing a lot of quick dump passes to Austin Eckler. He's been producing a lot this year, but again, as a pass catcher, not as a receiver, or not as a running back. So we'll have to see what happens with that. The receivers have been injured. I mean, a stat came out that I think Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, their big two, have only appeared in like 46 snaps together this season, which here we are going into week 11. That's unheard of. Those are your top two receivers. Clearly something's wrong, and yeah, they've both just been hurt. Keenan Allen's been dealing with a nagging hamstring injury that's been bothering him this whole year, which is disappointing. So it stinks, but that's where you're at, which is why someone like Josh Palmer stepping up as the number one receiver, which is not what you expected to see if you're a Chargers fan, does help explain the issues that your team's having. Defensively, you got Bosa. You have other players that are on the team, but there are some issues that you have to address, and that was a random PlayStation notification telling me about, oh yeah, you have free games available, whatever. I'll look at that later. But Chargers, I love watching them play when they're playing properly. The coaching staff makes some real questionable decisions, though. They're not at the level of the top-tier quarterbacks or coaching staffs in the league, so that is, again, noteworthy. Denver Broncos sit at 3-6. Broncos country, let's ride. Russell Wilson, oh man, he's in the news all the time, not necessarily for good reasons. I mean, that whole thing came out when they were on the plane, go to London. He was doing legs warm-ups in the plane for most of the ride. That's not necessarily something I'd be bragging about, because it makes you seem like you're, oh, I'm better than my team. They were all asleep and I was working out. But perhaps I'm overreading into that. Russell Wilson is just having a down year this season. Not playing well. Did miss a couple games due to injury. So we'll have to see what happens with him. Running back-wise, Melvin Gordon's been a letdown. Big time. Javonte Williams, unfortunately, done for the year. He got hurt early on, which isn't good. Receiver-wise, Jerry Jeudy's been good. They have so many mouths to feed in that offense, but Russell Wilson's not feeding any of them, really, which is a letdown. Defensively, they're having some issues. I mean, there's a reason they were willing to trade Bradley Chubb. Granted, Miami gave him a first-round pick for Chubb, who's a pending free agent. Was a pending free agent. But it's interesting, to say the least. There's definitely issues with the Denver Broncos. Las Vegas Raiders sitting last in the division at 2-7. Now, there are rumors that the Raiders might be looking to fire Josh McDaniels, but something came out that they can't afford to fire him and pay us, what you owe him in free agency, or by firing him and hire a new coach. But who knows if that's true or not. I'm going to let the halftime report play here for a minute. But the Raiders, I mean, they're a team that's just frustrating to watch because they have the pieces on offense. Derek Carr has been a good quarterback, an underrated quarterback. Heck, I think I said earlier this year that I thought Derek Carr was one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league. This year, he's just making me eat my words. Josh Jacobs is stepping up as a strong running back this year. I will give him that. But guess what? It's a contract year, and the Raiders had declined his fifth-year option. So he's a pending free agent. Congratulations. These guys always seem to break out when they're in a contract year. Wonder why. Receiver-wise, you got Devontae Adams at the deadline. Didn't work out. Devontae Adams just isn't playing well, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's the fact that the team is just not producing. And then you also traded away Bryan Edwards, which now you're kind of regretting, but it is what it is. I mean, the Raiders defensively aren't playing that great. I completely forgot about Hunter Renfrow, who's been hurt on and off this whole year for the Raiders. So there's just a lot of question marks with them offensively. Defensively, they're not the best team. I mean, they did trade away Khalil Mack, so to their division rival Chargers, but I mean, it is what it is. Finally, we get to the NFC. We'll start with the NFC East, where my favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles, sitting first at 8-1. Did not think the Eagles would be 8-1 at this point. I was thinking maybe 6-3, 5-4. I will take 8-1. Obviously, I'll give more of a breakdown for the Eagles here for obvious reasons. I'm a fan. So, quarterback, Jalen Hurts, not my favorite player, but he has taken a big step forward this year. He's definitely still a mobile quarterback. He still has the ability to stretch plays with his legs. We see him run a lot. He escapes the pocket. He has cut down on his escaping the pocket when there's a ghost phantom rusher, so I will give him credit for that. He doesn't panic as much anymore. He's taken a step forward. He is probably, along with Tua, one of the favorites for the MVP, but I'd still give the edge to Tua right now. We'll see what happens. We still have half the season to go. But he's looked very good this year. Running-wise, Miles Sanders, knock on wood, has remained healthy this year. So, fingers crossed he stays healthy. He's been looking like a strong running back one. But guess what? Like Josh Jacobs, he's a pending free agent. Like I said, these running backs like to break out during contract years. Receiver-wise, oh man, it's a great thing that the team got A.J. Brown. Titans fans are probably very upset with the trade. But hey, guess what? A.J. Brown stepping up, clear-cut number one receiver, top 5 receiver in the league right now. Yes, he laid an egg on Monday Night Football, but he was clearly hurt. He had that one catch, clearly got injured in the catch. So he was just kind of like doing what he can. Devontae Smith's really stepping up right now as the 1B to A.J. Brown's 1A. Loving it. Loving watching him play. Dallas Goedert is one of the best tight ends in the game. You can quote me on that. I don't care. I'd still prefer Kyle Pitts. I'd still prefer Travis Kelce, of course. But you got to go with him. Dallas Goedert, unfortunately, is out for at minimum 4 weeks, which stinks. Painful loss, especially because now you're starting to get some tougher teams coming up in the schedule. But Eagles defense, I'm just going to say C.J. Gardner-Johnson has been an amazing pickup at the trade or before the season. Thank you, Saints, for him. He's been playing great this year for the Eagles. He's all over the place. He reminds me of a little bit of Brian Dawkins. So, unfortunately, he is a pending free agent, but we'll have to see what happens. Slay's been playing great, so I'm excited how he can do. Other than that, play Nakobe Dean. That's all I'm going to say. Play Nakobe Dean. When the Eagles were on the clock in the second round, I said pick him. When they're on the clock in the third round, I said pick him. Right now, play Nakobe Dean. It's Nakobe Dean time. It's pretty clear the team's missing Jordan Davis. New York Giants sit in second place in the division, sitting at 7-2. Now, of note, the Giants have only played one division game, and they lost it. So, the division games are the ones where your opponents know you the best, which is noteworthy. Now, the Giants, 7-2. Nobody saw this coming. Daniel Jones, pending free agent. Who knows what's going to happen with him? He's having his moments where, specifically later in the game, like the second half, Daniel Jones will step up and look like an elite quarterback. But then again, in the first half, he looks like a mediocre one. So, who knows which Daniel Jones you're going to get that game. If you get the good one, you're in business. Saquon Barkley, again, like Miles Sanders, knock on wood, has remained healthy this year. So, he's looking like the number one running back in the league. Love watching him play. Very dynamic guy. Catches passes left and right. Makes these great plays. Will turn a play that looks like it should be swallowed up at the 2-yard line. After a 2-yard carry, he'll turn it into a 35-yard carry for a touchdown because he's just so dynamic. It's just exciting to watch him play. That's all there is. That's all I can say. It's exciting to watch Saquon Barkley play. Receiver-wise, just like the previous few years, injuries. It's like, hey, welcome to the Giants. When do you want to get hurt? Week 1, week 2, week 5? It's up to you. Wan'Dale Robinson's learning that. So it's just, the Giants have the worst luck with injuries in their receiving core. And I mean, the Eagles had it for a few years. 2017, but they were okay. I mean, Alshon was playing with injury the whole year. But anyway, for like 3 years after that, 18, 19, 20, injuries wiped out the receiving core year after year after year. Giants have been the same way. So it's awful to watch. Every year, it's like, all right, which receiver's going to get hurt? Defense. Their defense is playing pretty solid football. Their new defensive coordinator, Wink Martinsdale, shout out to him. Honestly, the only DCL name by name here. He's been coaching this team very strong. He's really turned the defense around. That's all I can say. The team is getting to the quarterback. The team is forcing turnovers. They probably miss James Bradbury, but there's a reason they let him go. Dallas Cowboys sit in third at the division with a 6-3 record. Them boys they're playing okay. They have their moments. Now, we saw what happened this week. They blew a 14-point lead against the Packers. Granted, it was in Lambeau. Game went to overtime and they blew it. There's issues with this team. Now, Dak Prescott, I was talking to one of my friends, and he's a big Giants fan, so we always, we talk back and forth about the Eagles and the Giants, and then we'll talk about the other teams as well. So I said to him, I don't think the Cowboys are looking that great. I think Dak has some issues. And he reminded me, don't forget, Dak had that ankle injury. And he's right, because Dak hasn't looked the same since that ankle injury. So I don't know, lower body injury, someone who's dealt with, an Achilles injury last year, still plagued by it time and time again. I can only imagine how it is as a quarterback, someone expected to move around on that ankle all the time. So I don't know, maybe he's still being bothered by it. There's always going to be that camp that says, oh, he's cashing out because he got the money. Running back room, Tony Pollard has been looking good, but he is a good backup. Ezekiel Elliott has looked good at times, but he's also been dealing with injuries. So, meh. Receiving room, CeeDee Lamb, inconsistent to start the year, has been looking better of late. Dalton Schultz, the tight end, had a decent first game, got hurt, and slowly starting to work his way up to being another strong tight end in the league. So we'll have to see what happens with him. Defensively, they're good, but they're not great. I mean, they do have a couple great pass rushers, but Trayvon Diggs he's regressed from last year, and we all kind of knew that was going to happen. Washington Commanders sit in last in the division at 5-5, so it is what it is with them. They are the only team so far that has beaten the Eagles this year. so that is noteworthy for them. Now, they have an interesting quarterback situation. Of course, you started with Carson Wentz as your starting QB. He got hurt. You brought back Taylor Heineke, had him start, or you had Taylor Heineke step in, I should say. Heineke has been exactly what you expect. He's not the guy who's you want to give the ball and say, all right, lead us down the field to score, but he's a guy who you want as a game manager. He's well respected around the locker room. So Heineke definitely has his moments. Running back room, absolutely love the story of Brian Robinson Jr. I feel so bad for him. He got shot twice during the preseason, and he did come back very quickly. He is a great north-south running back. I love watching him play. He's an old-style back. He's just exciting to watch play, and he's been doing what he has to do, and I love watching him. That's all I can really say. He's a guy who I like to root for. He's coming back from a tough injury, something that completely wasn't his fault. It's noteworthy. That's all I can really say. He completely pushed down Antonio Gibson. Gibson is still producing at a decent level, but Brian Robinson is the clear-cut number one back at this point. Receiving-wise, Terry McLaurin is one of the best in the league, pretty clearly. He is an elite quarterback, he is an elite receiver. The issue has always been his quarterbacks, so it's going to be exciting to watch Terry McLaurin if he can continue to get good quarterbacks, if he can continue to get good looks. No good tight end on the team, really, of note. So defensively, they have their moments where, Benjamin St-Juste has his moments, for example. He'll look good, but then he'll allow like a 80-yard bomb because he's bad coverage, and then he'll commit a pass interference. But, they have their players, and they will soon be getting Chase Young back from injury, so that's big for them. If Chase Young can return, it'll be great. He'll join that elite defensive line with Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, so I'm excited. Since the Eagles don't have to play them anymore this year, unless they meet in the playoffs, I'm excited to watch them play. Wow, we're getting some primetime Kirk Cousins here. Minnesota Vikings, speaking of, sit at 8-1. Now, their one loss did come to the Eagles this year, so that is worth noting. But the Vikings, oh man, first let's talk about their game against the Bills. That was such a great game, and I'm discussing it here because the Vikings came out on top over Buffalo. Great drives, just absolutely stunning, beautiful game. Loved watching it. I'm a guy who likes good defense, but even I had to appreciate the game. Kirk Cousins is looking like a strong quarterback this year, but it's Kirk Cousins. We know what he is. He's a guy who has been known to choke in primetime, and he's kind of done it this year. So it's worth noting that we'll have to see what happens if they can make it further, but into the postseason, for example. But Kirk Cousins is a great player. Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league. He's proving it this year. Just takes the ball, runs down the gut, consistently gets like 100 yards in a game. Justin Jefferson. When I mentioned Stephon Diggs getting his great catch, Justin Jefferson had an even better one. Absolutely stunning catch. Brought in the football while falling on the ground. His gloves and arm sleeve got sent to the Hall of Fame because of it. I'm sorry, Stephon Diggs, but Justin Jefferson outdid you. Just two absolutely stunning catches. That's all it was. Great game, great way for that game to go. Justin Jefferson is clearly an elite receiver. Adam Thielen has been producing as well this year. Is he at the level he was a couple years ago? No, but he's still producing despite being, I think he's 30, 31, 32. But he's just playing great. He's doing what you'd hope he'd be doing. Defensively, or tight end wise, unfortunately, Irv Smith Jr. got injured. He's out for a while, which really stinks. But they did go and acquire TJ Hawkinson. So Hawkinson, I'm not going to grade him so far as Vikings. It's only been a couple games, but we'll have to see. Very talented player. Defensively, they have their great games. They have a great pass rush. They have a talented pass rush. They have a talented secondary. They have solid linebackers, so they can stop the run. The Vikings are a team to look out for. Green Bay Packers sit at second with a 4-6 record. Not a strong division, to say the least. Packers are a team that have been a letdown this year. You look at Aaron Rodgers. He's won the MVP a couple years now in a row, and he's not going to win it this year. He's doing good, but he's not. It's pretty clear that the issue with him isn't his running back. Aaron Jones is playing strong football as well. The issue is the receiving core. When you trade away Devontae Adams, you don't draft a first-round pick receiver to replace him. Yeah, Christian Watson had a breakout game last week against the Cowboys, but how long is that going to last? Is that going to be able to last, I should say? I don't know. I don't buy it. No real number one tight end. I mean, Robert Tonyan has his moments, but he's not like a Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, Mark Andrews, where you can say, all right, we don't need strong receivers because we have him. So, offensive line, not the best, specifically in pass protection. Defense, mediocre. So, those are your issues right now if you're the Packers. Detroit Lions sit at 3-6. All right, first things first. Elite defense, horrible. Elite offense, horrible defense. Just, you watch the Lions play, and they get blown out. They're always in these blowout games where it's like the final score. I won't be shocked if they play a game where the final score is like 63 to 56 because that's how they play. They do keep games close, and they're a gritty team until the end. I will give them credit for that. But you look at Detroit, offensively, Jared Goff's taking the step forward. This is exactly what they could have hoped, what they were hoping for when they traded Stafford. I mean, there are a lot of question marks with Jared Goff. You know, he's a lame duck quarterback sitting there doing nothing. You know, he's just going to serve till a good quarterback falls in the draft to Detroit. But he's producing this year. Give him credit. Running back-wise, DeAndre Swift has not been playing great, but he's been hurt, so that is noteworthy. Jamal Williams has been playing great, so who knows? I mean, you got the 1A, 1B there, and it's not necessarily because Swift stinks. It's just because he's been hurt. He's still clearly not 100%, so it's painful. It's painful if you're a Lions fan. You know, there's so much potential with him, but receiver-wise, you've been getting production from all your receivers. Jameson Williams should be back soon, so that's going to be a big plus for them when he returns. Ideally, probably mid-December. So, yeah. Defensively, I don't even want to discuss their defense because it's so bad. Chicago Bears sit last in the division, sitting at 3-7. Chicago, Justin Fields had gotten the whole Bustin' Fields thing going for him. Everyone's like, oh, Bustin' Fields, he sucks. He's producing right now. He's looking like a great quarterback, and you want to know why? It's because he can run. That's why he's looking so good. I love watching Justin Fields play. He's running down the field left and right, and he's looking like a top-tier quarterback right now. He's looking like Lamar Jackson to an extent. So we'll have to see what happens with him. But if he keeps playing at this level, Chicago's going to have to work their offense around a little bit. Just a little bit more. But they did get him Chase Claypool at the deadline, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Chicago, running-wise, I mean, like I said, you have Justin Fields, but you also have David Montgomery. So it's interesting to watch them play. Cole Kmet is kind of stepping in as Justin Fields' favorite target right now. So that's a big plus if you are Cole Kmet. You know, he's a big run blocker as a tight end, but now he's starting to get involved offensively, so that's huge for the team and huge for him. And it actually makes the Khalil Mack trade a little bit easier for them to take care of. Defensively, not a lot of great players, especially since you traded away Roquan Smith, so not much to really say about their defense. It's there. Now in the NFC South, you do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers leading this division with a 5-5 record. Just like the Packers, the Buccaneers have been a real letdown this year. Tom Brady, of course, we all know he's going through some personal drama in his life. He's getting a divorce, going through a divorce, and he's just not playing that well this year. You got to wonder if the whole divorce thing is just playing on his mind the whole time. If it is, I mean, it makes sense. It would explain his poor play. And it's not like he's playing horribly. He's just not playing at Tom Brady level. So that is worth noting. Brady, I don't like Brady at all, but obviously I wish the best to him, Giselle, his wife, ex-wife, soon to be. But other than that, running-wise, Leonard Fournette looked like a great player this year. He's been dominating. Guess what? He got hurt last week. So who knows what's going to happen? Who knows who's going to step up for the Buccaneers? Rashad, I forget his last name. I'm blanking on him. I'm blanking on so many names right now, and I feel so bad. Rashad White. There we go. Just came to me. Rashad White's been looking good when if he gets the starting job. Receiver-wise, Mike Edwards doing Mike Edwards things. Chris Godwin doing Chris Godwin things. Both have dealt with some injuries this year, so I mean, it's tough, but it's how it is. Tight end wise, it's safe to say Otten had a great game a couple weeks ago, but he's no Gronkowski. Gronk still has his time. Gronk has a lot to prove this year. Gronk retired. Seems like he's going to stay retired. So, yeah. Defensively, the defense is showing up, and that's what's keeping them in a lot of these games, helping them be a 500 team, because the offense, despite being so talented, is really just letting us down. Atlanta Falcons surprisingly sit in second in the division with a 4-6 record. Marcus Mariota's been getting a lot of hate right now because, he's not the best quarterback. What are you going to get with Desmond Ridder just to address this whole situation? Keep Mariota starting until Ritter's 100% ready. No point in stunting his growth. I mean, look at Malik Willis. Titans fans were calling for Willis. How'd he do? Went 0-2, struggled passing. Ritter's going to be the exact same way, my opinion. Keep Marcus Mariota. He's at least keeping the games competitive. 4-6 team, solid. Running back room, Cordero Patterson's been good. He got hurt, just came back, had a bad game, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Receiver room, Drake London's the big name. Kyle Pitts is the big tight end. Pitts is having a letdown year. London's having a letdown year. That's just how it is. These guys, the quarterbacks aren't targeting them because they're a run-heavy offense. Defensively, they're playing some strong defense. I'll give them credit. They have a lot of guys that just work well in the system. Carolina Panthers sit at 3-7, right behind them. Carolina clearly fired their coach this year, so they're not happy with their performance. You look at the receiver or the quarterbacks, pick your poison, pretty much. Who do you want? Who do you want starting? I mean, you've had Baker Mayfield, he gets hurt. You put in PJ Walker, he struggles, now he's hurt. Baker's back, Sam Darnold's going to be back. It's pick your poison. I honestly don't even know how to grade those quarterbacks because there's just, the three of them are all just disappointing. I mean, you look at the draft pedigree. Baker and Darnold were both considered top-tier quarterbacks 2018, and neither really panned out so far. So who knows what's going to happen with them both. Running back room, obviously you traded away Christian McCaffrey, but he's worth mentioning because he looked great to start the season for them, as expected, to stay healthy. So it was exciting to watch him play. Now you have Dante Foreman. He's been doing good, but I mean, he is what he is. He's a good backup running back. Now he's thrust into the spotlight. So, I mean, it's a tough move. Tough move. Receiver-wise, DJ Moore's been a letdown. But again, look at the quarterbacks he's had. A quarterback carousel. So, defensively, nothing's there. So, it's surprising that the Panthers have 3 wins. New Orleans Saints also sit at 3-7, but the Panthers are 3-1 in the division. The Saints are 1-2. So the Aints, they find themselves in a bad position. Now, obviously, entering the year, Jameis Winston was going to be the QB, and he was a dark horse MVP candidate, but he's been hurt, and now he's the backup, which is interesting. Andy Dalton is struggling to move the ball down the field, so I'm expecting a quarterback change. I'm expecting famous Jameis to get another starting spot soon. We'll have to see what happens, but it's an interesting quarterback dilemma, one that I didn't think would be happening this year. Running back-wise, Alvin Kamara's been playing great. Of course, there's still the off-season incident that occurred at last year's Pro Bowl. Who knows what's going to happen with that, if he's going to face any suspensions or anything like that. So if you're a Saints fan, you got to hope he doesn't. You got to hope he comes back sooner rather. If he does, you got to hope it's like a one game. But knowing the NFL, nothing will probably come of it. So receiver-wise, Michael Thomas, guess what? Just like 2020, just like 2021, Michael Thomas has been dealing with injuries. He's already done for the year this year due to a toe injury. So does he even want to play football anymore? That's my question. I mean, it's pathetic at this point. But, I mean, when he's healthy, he's one of the best receivers in the league. Chris Olave has been really stepping up as a top receiver on this team. Kudos to them for drafting him. Kudos to him for being a great rookie. A lot of good rookies so far offensively this year. So it's exciting to watch. Defensively, the Saints defense is good, not great. So, I mean, they don't necessarily they don't excel in the secondary. They have a solid secondary, but they don't excel with the pass rush. When you can't get a good pass rush, your secondary is going to get exposed. Lastly, we have the NFC West, and this has been a long video, but it's what I expected. So the Seattle Seahawks surprisingly lead this division with a 6-4 record. Just like the Giants, just like the Eagles, I don't think anyone thought the Seahawks would be leading their division. Now, this is a team that, keep in mind, they traded away franchise cornerstone Russell Wilson, and then they also cut franchise cornerstone Bobby Wagner. So we all thought this team was going to be embracing the tank. Here they are, first place in the division by half a game. Seattle, I mean, they have their moments. They clearly have their moments. Geno Smith has been looking great this year. He's looking like the former second-round pick that he was. Projected first-round pick, fell to the second. He's looking great. He's showing up at times, and he's just really balling, specifically when they're at home. So, I mean, that is noteworthy, but still, he's been looking great. He's been one of the best come from nowhere quarterback stories this year. It's exciting to watch. Running-wise, Kenneth Walker has stepped in, and he's looked great this year once he took over the starting role, unfortunately due to an injury, and Chris Carson, of course, had to retire. But, I mean, it's still exciting to watch Kenneth Walker play. Another extremely talented rookie this year. Just absolutely stunning to watch all these guys play. But Seattle, weird. DK Metcalf is doing DK Metcalf things, not at the same level as he was with Russ a couple of years back, but he is still producing at a high level. So it's interesting to watch the Seahawks play. Defensively, not the Legion of Boom, but they're still good defensively. San Francisco 49ers sit second with a 5-4 record. Now, the 49ers quarterback room, Trey Lance got hurt second week of the year, so now you have Jimmy Garoppolo starting, which, hey, that whole Jimmy Garoppolo thing coming in, oh, he's going to be traded. No, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Yes, he is. No, he's not. You happy you have him? That's all I got to say. He's not producing at a high level. He's not producing at what his contract is, but he's still playing pretty good football. He's a serviceable starter, so we'll give him that. Christian McCaffrey stepped in as his team's running back, acquired him at the deadline. He's been producing at a high level, but I still don't care for that trade just because you gave up so many picks for a running back, injury-prone running back at that. Again, knock on wood, but still, it's noteworthy for them and him and everything like that. The other running backs, Elijah Mitchell, has come back from injury that he got hurt in the first game. So who really knows what's going to happen? So many running backs. Receiver-wise, Brandon Ayuk is looking great. Deebo Samuel is looking great. So it's exciting to watch this team's offense play. George Kittle has been a little bit of a letdown this year, but he did get hurt in the preseason. So who really knows? Defensively, Nick Bosa is looking great. The rest of the defense, not so great. The Arizona Cardinals sit at 4-6 in the third place in the division. They're good, but not great. Now, Kyler Murray. He's been playing some very strong football this year, but guess what? He's currently hurt. So who really knows what's going to happen with Kyler? I like watching Kyler play. He's a guy who can run when he has to, but he's also a good passer. So Colt McCoy took over last week, didn't necessarily play that well, but I mean, hey, they got the win. That's what matters. So the Cardinals, I mean, Kyler has his moments. If he can come back and if he can be healthy, they'll be in a good position. Running-wise, no elite running backs. I mean, James Conner's been producing when he's healthy, but he's still not a great running back this year. I mean, he is great. I'm underselling him. He's having a pretty good year now. I'm thinking about it. It's just what I'm thinking about his overall statistics, but he's been great when healthy. That's how I'm going to look at it. Great when healthy. Receiver-wise, Marquise Hollywood-Brown was great when healthy. He'll be coming back soon. That's huge. DeAndre Hopkins coming back from his suspension has been great. So again, that's huge. That's what they wanted. And this game is over. Great offense for this team, has a lot of potential. Not the best offensive line, not the best defense, and it's starting to show. Last place in this division is surprisingly the reigning Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams, who sit at 3-6. Matthew Stafford isn't showing it this year. He had a great year last year, and I think the Rams would make that trade again because Stafford was instrumental to them winning the Super Bowl. So that is noteworthy. But Stafford just isn't showing it this year. He's currently in concussion protocol still. Who knows when he'll be back? But there's still a lot of questions with him. More questions than answers right now with him. Running wise, who knows? You got Cam Akers, who basically seems like he wants to be traded. Seems like he doesn't care about the Rams. Seems like the Rams don't want him anymore. So it's surprising that he wasn't traded at the deadline. But then you have Darrell Henderson come in. Who knows what's he is what he is. He's a good pass catcher, but he's not the best. He's not a number one running back in the league. He's a pending free agent anyway, I'm pretty sure. So there's that. Now you have Kyren Williams, who just got activated off the IR. Maybe he can serve as the running back one for this team. They're going to give him chances. We know this, especially if the team continues to struggle like this. But who knows, really? Receiver-wise, Cooper Kupp, arguably the number one receiver in the league. Hurt. He's going to be out for a while. Really tough loss for the team. He just got placed on the IR, I think yesterday or Monday, either way. Yesterday or Tuesday, I should say. But regardless, it's a tough loss. And he's a great player. He's been producing. He's been pretty much the lone bright spot on this offense this year so far. Tight end-wise, Tyler Higbee's had his moments. He started off pretty strong, but he's cooled off since. So that's pretty much what you expect with a tight end in this Rams offense. Defensively, the team's had its letdowns. The team has had its letdowns. So, I mean, the team's too good to be playing like it is. So right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the number one seed would be Kansas City in the AFC and Philadelphia in the NFC. So the divisions would run through Kansas City and Philadelphia respectively. Now the Dolphins fans are going to complain and say, well, wait a second now, Kansas City's played one less game than us. True. But we'll have to see what happens. They have to lose in order to have a tie record with the Dolphins. So if I had to guess, it's going to be exciting to watch the playoffs this year. The NFC East is going to be well represented. The AFC East is going to be well represented in the playoffs. So get rid of these stupid NFC least memes. That's all I'm going to say. But I think that you're going to see the Dolphins make a run. I think the AFC title will be Miami, Kansas City. I think the NFC title, as boring as it sounds, Philadelphia, Minnesota. I do think that if the Giants become, or the Cowboys become, whoever the 2 seed is, they will be able to pull upsets. Right now, though, I do think the NFC East could have 3 of the 4 teams in the second round of the playoffs, which is crazy. Anyways, I'm not making Super Bowl predictions today. I'll do that later. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. A long one, I know, but hey, had to be done, right? I haven't discussed football really this year outside of the trade deadline. So, looking forward to the rest of this year. Fly Eagles fly.